I'm here with another chapter in this series of reading chapters from my books. This one is going to be from Awakening the Galactic Earth Being Within, A Guide to Human Potential and Expansion. So what I did was I just scrolled through the book until my fingers stopped somewhere, and it stopped on the true story of why we're here on Earth. So let's read this one. Many people asked me to tell them where they came from. The answer was always from sparks of God's source. That's always how I saw it or understood it. Since that time, I've been privy to information that confirms that. Following that, I received the knowing that although we all came from God Creator Source, we didn't all necessarily choose a dense form or come to the earth realm at the same time. Some choose to incarnate on earth the majority of their incarnations, and some have only been here once. This book is about those that have chosen to be here on earth realm at this time in the evolutionary history of humanity. We live on Earth's hard, rocky surface, breathe the air that surrounds the planet, drink the water that falls from the sky, and eat the food that grows in the soil. But Earth did not always exist within this expansive universe, and it's not always been a hospitable haven for life. According to the National Geographic and research, billions of years ago, Earth, along with the rest of our solar system, was entirely unrecognizable, existing only as an enormous cloud of dust and gas. Eventually, a mysterious occurrence, one that even the world's foremost scientists have yet been unable to determine, created a disturbance in that dust cloud, setting forth a string of events that would lead to the formation of life as we know it. One common belief among scientists is that a distant star collapsed, creating a supernova explosion, which disrupted the dust cloud and caused it to pull together. This formed a spinning disk of gas and dust known as a solar nebula. The faster, my dog is going nuts behind me. The faster the cloud spun, the more the dust and gas became concentrated at the center, further fueling the speed of the nebula. Over time, the gravity at the center of the cloud became so intense that hydrogen atoms began to move more rapidly and violently. The hydrogen protons began fusing, forming helium, and releasing massive amounts of energy. This led to the formation of the star that is the center point of our solar system, the Sun, roughly 4.6 billion years ago. The formation of the Sun consumed more than 99% of the matter in the nebula. The remaining material began to coalesce into various masses. The cloud was still spinning, and clumps of matter continued to collide with others. Eventually, some of those clusters of matter grew large enough to maintain their own gravitational pull, which shaped them into the planets and dwarf planets that make up our solar system today. Earth is one of the 4 inner terrestrial planets in our solar system. Just like the other inner planets, such as Mercury, Venus, and Mars, It's relatively small and rocky. Earth, in the history of the solar system, or early in the history of the solar system, rocky material was the only substance that could exist so close to the sun and withstand its heat. The story goes, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. The earliest life forms we know of were microscopic organisms, microbes, that left signals of their presence in rocks about 3.7 billion years ago. Humans first evolved in Africa, and much of human evolution occurred in that continent. We touched on this belief earlier. Science has found fossils of early humans who lived between 6 and 2 million years ago, who came entirely from Africa. Most scientists currently recognize some 15 to 20 different species of early humans. Anatomically, modern humans emerged in Africa approximately 300,000 years ago. The matrilineal, most recent common ancestor, lived around 155,000 years ago, while the patrilineal, most recent common ancestor, lived around 200,000 to 300,000 years ago. Bones of primitive Homo sapiens first appeared 300,000 years ago in Africa with brains as large or larger than ours. They're followed by anatomically modern Homo sapiens at least 200,000 years ago. And the brain shape became essentially modern by at least 100,000 years ago. So here's an interesting fact. Geneticists have discovered that all human embryos start life as female, as do all embryos of mammals. About the second month, the fetus tests elaborate enough androgens to offset the maternal estrogens, and maleness develops. That's the scientific understanding of how Earth and life upon her began. And I know that thank you for staying with me in this, but it was important to give you the scientific understanding. Now let's look at another perspective. This is a sharing from Pleiadians. Mankind is an experiment. Mankind was bioengineered, as has just about everything else that exists within creation. God Creator began the experiment of self-expression. We're not dismissing the belief that God created us. He brought all energies and essences to life, extensions of itself, in this that you're called to local universe, endowing extensions of itself, the same gifts that it had willingly and freely, each designed as a free will zone where all would be allowed all expressions of itself. We say all because all things that are living contain consciousness and connection to source. He created all life, which includes beings from all over the universe. These were considered extensions of himself. We are using the identifier him, as that is the way that most identify the one source God, although we understand intelligently that God's source as a creator God doesn't have a gender assignment. That was a quote. Now on with the story. Now, these energies that some would call minor creator gods went out and began to create their own worlds and populations. Each succeeding world created another world to exist in the development of our current universe and our planet. Earth, for example, was intended to be an intergalactic exchange center for information. I have clients under hypnosis confirm this theory that Earth is an information center. You know, I love to share stories, so here we go. Skipping to the part where she described where she landed in the life experience, she was simply suspended in air. She described the different bands of colors and a feeling of nothingness. And when asked, she said that she had no form to speak of. Yet she clearly had consciousness because she was aware of herself. I asked what she did in a day's time. She said that she observed. Oh, that's interesting. I asked, observe what? To which she answered, humans. Now we have some substance. I asked why she observed humans. Long story short, her answer was that it was her job to gather information on how humanity was evolving. When I asked what she did with the information she had collected, she said she took it back to the computer. Now, this is interesting, huh? When I asked what happened to the information that she loaded into the computer, she thought for a while and then said, I don't know. It's not my job. In other words, her job was to simply gather, document, and upload the information. I asked if there were other beings present, and if so, to ask one of them what happened to the data that she had gathered. The answer was that it was compiled into a report of how humanity was evolving. The data determined what happens next. In other words, while we have blueprints, the next step in evolution is determined by the current state of humanity. I found that very interesting, especially in the way of fear programs regarding proposed and prophesied catastrophic events. I've been shown visions and received warnings of catastrophic events before that didn't actually take form. And when I asked the beings for clarity on that, the answer was that the notice and fear programs did the work to wake people up and align them with their hearts so that the actual event was no longer necessary to shift human consciousness. I was happy for the opportunity to witness that woman's journey, which confirms what the beings had shared with me many years before. So now when I receive forewarnings, I do take heed, but don't go into fear about them. Sometimes common sense is required. One should always have preparations ready for catastrophes, especially if you live in an area where storms, tornadoes, and earthquakes happen on a regular basis. Here we are, this planet called Earth, located perfectly to be reached from one galaxy to another, existing close to many dimensional portals, the highways that exist for travel through to other worlds or universes. As Earth, what some refer to as seeded, it has never been limited to the programs of human beings. Individual representatives of all of the galaxies were brought here to this planet. Some took the form of 2 legs, some 4 legs, some of feathers, some of fin and scales, Some of those live on land, some live in the air, some live in the water, and some live within Earth. And then there are those that didn't travel from other worlds and universes. Some of these creator gods were what would be called master geneticists. And they discovered how to tie these encoded molecules of identity, frequency, and electrical charge to create life. In that grand experiment of creation, many sentient civilizations were anxious to donate their DNA in order to have a representative of their coding on this planet. Again, there is mention of this in the channelings of Judy Satori, Barbara Hand Clow, Barbara Marcinek, sorry if I can't pronounce that correctly, and others. As these master geneticists set to work, they designed varieties of species, some human, some plants, some minerals, some animal, some insects, some fish, etc. You get the idea. So besides the beings that already existed and migrated here, there existed other sets of beings that were created. Ever see the documentaries about life within the depths of the oceans? Are the bacteria in human beings? Are the insects? Some of them are strange according to human standards. Some, well, humans are quite strange in appearance as well. All were accomplished by playing with the varieties of DNA that the sentient civilizations created to make this exchange center of information. Perhaps you're getting an idea of the plan for Earth, because it is only in this Earth frequency that time exists. A few 100,000 years ago, a few million years passed as different energies were brought to existence. There have been species of man looking like you, whose DNA were intact at one time, who developed very highly evolved civilizations. We're speaking prior to 500,000 years ago upon your planet, and not what you know as Lemuria or Atlantis. Their existence is long buried, but will resurface at some point. You can see why some have called Earth the gem of the universe. During Earth's early history, there were wars in space for ownership of this planet. Some of you have remembrances of those wars in what you call dream time. I had those dreams for a long time. They were very disturbing because they were very visceral for me. On waking, I caught myself scanning the sky at odd times, expecting the ships to come in. I'm happy it didn't begin. That is the time when I learned about parallel existences. Once one recovers from the initial shock of the idea that extraterrestrial had something to do with this Earth's heritage, it really seems like a very logical explanation. Why would the human race egotistically believe that it alone is responsible for Earth's genetic past, especially when proof in cave drawings and hieroglyphs show otherworldly beings and ships? This can hold true for the universe as well as planet Earth. How many more ancient drawings of rocket ships and their pilots need to be found before humans can break through the fears about discovering their extraterrestrial history? Now, you're wondering about who won the war for Earth. We know that the original planners were of the family of light, as they designed an information center a place where galaxies would contribute the information. Their intention was that the Earth was to be a cosmic library, a place of incredible beauty, a place of experimenting how information could be stored through frequencies and through the genetic process. In these wars, some zones of the Earth became lost to the original owners, and so Earth became a place of duality. As it was intended as a free will universe, others, who had the right to do whatever they wanted, came in and took over through force. If one was looking at time, the occurrence would be approximately 300,000 years ago, and what was called the beginning of human civilization, except it was only the beginning of the latter phase, because in the form of what we now call modern man. Well, the ones that won were not of the light, realizing that these were beings of higher intelligence and amazing technology. You know, the war wasn't fought in hand-to-hand battle with axes and stones. There was great radioactivity, nuclear action, and much of the earth was destroyed, including the first experiment of man. These new owners of Earth were also considered creator gods, master geneticists, and so they understood how to create life. They wanted this territory for their own reasons, as you might already guess. There is consciousness in all things, and consciousness communicates continuously. Consciousness vibrates, or can be trained to vibrate at certain electromagnetic frequencies. Electromagnetic frequencies are very interesting. They tend to act in a variety of ways. One of the ways that we're going to be concerned about in speaking with you this evening is that electromagnetic energies of consciousness can function as food. Feel into that for a moment. It can function as food. So that means that just like apples can be prepared and eaten and ingested in a variety of ways, perhaps consciousness could be prepared and ingested in a variety of ways. Do you understand? So some entities in the process of their own evolution began to discover that they had created life and put consciousness into things through manipulating frequencies into forms of consciousness. They could feed themselves in this method. They could continue their existence by creating this source of nutrition. They also discovered that this is how Creator nourished itself, by sending out others to create a food source for itself. Now, the new owners of your planet, this principality in space, out on the fringes of your galactic system, had a different appetite, different preferences than the former owners. They nourished themselves off of fear. They nourished themselves off of chaos through fear. That was their primary food source. In some ways, it fed them, it stimulated them, it kept them in power. There's a saying about the law of free will. The saying is that nothing can be done without giving notice. I'm not sure how they gave notice all those millenniums ago, but I do remember a Hollywood movie called Monsters, Inc. Some of you might be familiar with it, where the beings created and harnessed energy through creating fear. Do you understand now? And even in today's society, there are many projected reasons to live in fear, chaos, and greed. That is why the family of light everywhere is beginning to unite. This is the reason for the global rising of consciousness, frequency, and awareness. We are evolving our DNA from 2 helix to 12 helix. These 12 correspond to energy centers, chakras, vortices, and whatever name you attach to them inside and outside of your body. There are millions of you at this time on the planet on assignment who have agreed to do this. And as more align and raise their frequencies and connections, they affect others. And as with the 100th monkey theory, soon the collective will come online with clarity as to who they are and what their assignment is. Already many things in certain portions of your world are awakening. There will be a merging of identities, cultures, and new world orders. Not the new world order that the media has been touting. That one was feeding the dark agenda of control and manipulation. As we wake up, there may be more chaos, confusion, rage, and disruption as we realize the lie. As members of the family of light, you are to observe it. You are to understand that here is an evolutionary process taking place, frequency modulation, and that those who can manage the changed frequency by all means will evolve. And those that cannot manage the frequency modulation by all means still create their reality with the awareness that they are no longer victims. There is a divine plan in operation. In closing, why are we here on Earth? You see, what's happening now as the food source is being taken away and the frequency is rising, Earth's grid work is being released. Each of you assist in making that frequency alive on this planet by living your lives according to your light, according to what you know. This work is a work of individual nature. Yes, you work in groups and you have certain leaders, but you must, as individuals, evolve yourselves. For as you evolve yourself, and as you are led by your light to live a certain way, what occurs is that you begin to change society. Look at your society. How has it served humanity? Does it strive to empower you or take your power away? Although there has been a history of slavery of all types on this planet, there have also been times of empowerment. We are naturally system busters. We do need to become more cognizant of manipulation through the distorted frequencies of television, social platforms, theater, and music. Even music. All these things are designed to create static around the existing DNA. As members of the family of light, you've been incarnated on this planet to prepare yourselves to do the work. I can hear you say, "What is my work?" I get that question from so many of my clients. Your work is quite simple. As members of the family of light, you carry light frequency into systems that are in limitation of light frequency, and light is information. We do not want it to sound like it's cold, computer data information. It is information that is transmitted biologically through an electromagnetic send out of consciousness. This is what you are experts in. I read somewhere a statement that said, if you were to have a business card printed up for yourselves, when you are in full memory of your identity, it might say, renegade member of the family of light, systems buster, available for altering systems of consciousness within the free will universe, on call. I would have those printed. Is now a good time? Consider it your current circumstances. How does it fit? We're simply saying that this is an aspect of your identity that you all have in common. You're here in millions at this time. You're here primarily to remember who you are and to operate multidimensionally within the system and to teach a new system. Some are here disguised as humans. The beings laughed as I typed that and added that we're all here disguised as humans. We are all light beings who have taken on human form. No matter what our origin is, we are ultimately light beings who take on different forms according to the mission. And as soon as you begin to realize that, you will extricate yourself from the human drama, from the human dilemma of frequency control. Everything will shift for you in amazing ways. The big secret, if it is a big secret, that has been kept from the human species is that thought creates experience. Thought creates reality. All reality is created by thought. It is all subjective experience, and electromagnetically, you are controlled in such a way as to create an experience within a certain spectrum of reality. You, who are members of the family of light, are well-traveled. You are well attuned to the possibility of bringing new frequencies in. You've come here to hold new frequencies that are beamed to you from space, that are setting into motion a new pattern inside your bodies. And so as you begin to know that this is what your purpose is, begin to consciously design your purpose. Begin to get clear about what it is that you want and begin to experience it no matter what area it's in. This is an absolute. Thank you for joining me for this chapter from the Galactic Earth Beings. I look forward to seeing you for the next book and the next chapter.